Today we are going to discuss about atoms and atomic structures proposed by different scientists at various places and their validation and their loopholes in the theorems. We are going to see that. The chapter's name is Atoms. By the end of the 19th century, we can say by the end of 19th century or middle of the 19th century or at the early years of the 20th century. That period was a very great time for the development of science. It was a great time really. Many scientists, they visualized the invisible concepts, and some of those concepts are till now they are validated. So atoms by the end of the 19th century and at the early hours of the 20th century, it was proved that matter is made up of atoms. Not only that, these atoms are classified into subatomic particles. The first well-known atomic structure theory or the theory of the atomic structure was proposed by J.J. Thomson. He was the first scientist who proposed the theorem about the atomic structure, and there are some proposals and some postulates in his theorem. What are his postulates? It is like this. He compared the atomic structure. In his view, it is a plum pudding model. What is the meaning of plum pudding model? He compared with the watermelon. What is this watermelon structure? Red pulp and the black color seeds are randomly or overall distributed throughout the volume of that pulp. So this is the comparison. So pulp is there, seeds are also there. This pulp seeds, he said that pulp is like a positive charge. That pulp is similar to the positive charge. That means positive charge is spread over all the volume of the matter. But the seeds which are lying randomly at different places inside the pulp, there seems to be negative charge. This is his comparison. So J.J. Thomson's plum pudding model, pulp seems to be or similar to be the positive charge, means like a pulp which is spread over the volume of inside the fruit, such like that. Positive charge also distributed over the volume of the atom, and the seeds are embedded at different places inside the pulp, such like that. Negative charge is similar to the seeds. So positive charge is spread over the seeds which are comparable or comparative to the seeds electrons. These are spread like this, embedded means they are placed at different places. But the studies on atomic structures after this proposal proved that these all assumptions are wrong, because there are many particles. Condensed matter is there. Like solids, some liquids. Whenever the different scientists made researches on the condensed matter particles, there are some radiation is releasing out of these materials. this radiation, positive radiation is there, negative radiation is there, neutral radiation is also there. And this radiation was really helpful to observe the photoelectric effect. So positive radiation, negative radiation, neutral radiation. So what we can understand, what is the reason for this radiation? The vibrations of the atoms and molecules within their lattice are when they are jumped from one energy level to the another energy level or one orbital to the another orbital, there may be a possibility for the releasing of energy in terms of radiation. So this is the conclusion given by the many scientists, and they proved that the J.J. Thomson's assumption is wrong. The next scientist who has given the great proposal about this atomic structure is Rutherford. Rutherford's atomic model was really a great footstep to understand the atomic structure. And not only proving wrong, and he has assumed and proved some various elements of the atomic structure with his experiments. And some of the theorems like emission spectrum, absorption spectrum, which was proposed by the Balmer, one of the great scientists. He observed the radiations of the atoms and molecules due to its vibrations within their atomic structure. And these all things we are going to discuss. Next, what we will see is Rutherford's alpha scattering experiment, really a great step forward to understand the atomic structure. Now we will see Rutherford's alpha scattering experiment. This is a major experiment which has given a great idea about the atomic structure. This is very, very important. So what is the alpha scattering experiment? See the diagram. This point refers to the source of alpha particle. Alpha. What is the source of alpha particle? This is nothing but 83 bismuth. The source of alpha particle is 83 Bi214. This is the source of alpha particle, and the number of alpha particles from this material or from this radioactive material. This is a radioactive material. It is released an alpha particles group of 5.5 MeV energy. Means this radioactive element, radioactive source, is acting as a source of alpha particles in this experiment, and it released alpha waves or alpha rays of strength or energy 5.5 mega electron volts, and this dot represents the source. Now the alpha particles are released from the source and they are passing through the slit arranged by the lead bricks. So the lead bricks, which is acting as a narrow slit or a small thin slit to pump or to pass these alpha rays in a straight line. Now they collided and fall on the thin gold foil, and the thickness of the thin gold foil is 2.1 into 10 to the power of minus 7 meters, or we can write 0.21 micrometers also. So whatever it may be, this is a beam of alpha particle. Falls on the thin gold foil. Now after falling on the thin gold foil, some alpha particles or alpha rays are scattered, some are reverse scattered, some scattered behind the gold foil with the different angles. The number of scattered alpha rays are calculated with respect to the angle of scattering, and how many alpha rays or particles are scattered is observed or sensed by a detector which is made up of zinc sulfide. This detector is attached to the screen. Okay, whenever these alpha particles which are emitted or which are repelled or reversed or scattered at different angles, okay, they fall on the screen, and the screen is connected to the zinc sulfide detector. So this detector is very useful to find out the number of alpha rays scattered at different angles. Means it is movable. We can write it as a movable detector. So maybe at here also some scattering will occur when it is moving. This is zinc sulfide screen, zinc sulfide detector can sense the number of alpha particles scattered. So what we can understand with this one is whenever zinc sulfide screen observes or the zinc sulfide detector grasp the number of alpha rays scattered. So now we will see this is the screen. Whenever the number of alpha particles are scattered, the backside one detector is fixed to this. Then what we can understand is number of alpha particles scattered will falls on the screen. Whenever these alpha particles are falling on the screen, you can observe the scintillations. Scintillation is nothing but a flash light. Whenever a light is falling on a particle or on a screen, it will be a brighter one. It will be visible like a brighter one. So that is said to be a scintillation or light flash. Flash of light. Rutherford, after doing this entire project or entire experiment, he drawn a graph with respect to the angle of scattering and the number of alpha particles scattered. So he got some data, and the questions arised in this experiment is some alpha particles, very few, approximately 0.14%. Very few percentage of the alpha particles are scattered by 1 degree or less than 1 degree. Remaining all alpha particles are scattered or deflected by 90 degrees or above. Some are extremely pulled back with respect to an angle with respect to this normal. Extremely they pulled back. This is one of the pulled back alpha ray. For our knowledge, it was drawn like this, a line. So some are extremely pulled back. Some alpha rays as a percentage, 0.14 percentage, are deviated or scattered by 1 degree Celsius, 1 degree, and the remaining alpha rays, 1 in 8,000, are more than that, are deflected by 90 degrees. These are the observations in this experiment, and Mr. Rutherford has given some conclusions with respect to the observation by analyzing it in a form of graph. Now we are going to see the graph and what are his conclusions. Now we will see the observations did by Rutherford in his alpha scattering experiment. He plotted a graph between scattering angle and n. What is this n? Number of scattered particles detected. Number of scattered particles detected. So there is a graph between theta and n. Here in this graph we have seen a solid curve, and on the solid curves we have seen some dots. What is the dot represents? Dot represents the data. These are the data points. Solid curve represents, it is a theoretical prediction. What is the theoretical prediction? Solid curve represents the theoretical prediction. What is the prediction? The targeted particle has less density and having a positively charged nucleus. Less dense and positively charged nucleus. So what we can understand is this dot here 10 power 6 to 10 power 7 These many range particles are founded between the angle from 0 to 20. From 20 to 40, these many. 40 to 60, this like. 60 to 80, like this. 100 to 120, these many. 140, these many. 160, near to 180, some particles. So, number of particles detected at the with respect to scattering angle. But what are the conclusions and arguments did by the Rutherford after drawing this curve with data points? His argument is, what he observed, 0.14% of the alpha particles are scattered below 1 degree or at 1 degree. Remaining all are scattered or deflected by 90 degrees or above. Some are extremely pulled back, some alpha rays, some alpha particles. The argument did by the Rutherford after watching all the data is, if alpha ray is pulled back completely, there should be a large repulsive force. Because of the large repulsive force only, those alpha particles are pulled back completely. And this repulsive force is due to a greater part of mass of an atom, and at that point only its total charge is concentrated. Means the reason for the pulling back is repulsive force is due to the greater part of mass and charge of an atom. And he named this, the greater part of mass and charge of an atom is nucleus. So what his conclusion? Nucleus is there for every atom. In this nucleus, its entire mass and charge are concentrated, and this nucleus consists positively charged particles, nothing but protons. Because of this positive charge, that alpha particles are repelled back. What about the electrons? He said that electrons are revolving around the nucleus in their confined paths. Whenever positively charged nucleus is there, oppositely charged electrons are revolving around the nucleus, there should be some force of attraction between the positive and negative charges. At this concept, Mr. Rutherford took the inspiration from Coulomb's law or Coulomb's inverse square law. What is the Coulomb's inverse square law? If the charged particles are opposite in nature, there should be a force of attraction which is proportional to Q1, Q2, inversely proportional to R square. So, what are the charges we can say? So, what is the equation made by this Rutherford's assumption with the inspiration of Coulomb's inverse square law, and what is the meaning of that we are going to see now. What is the formula to find out the force of attraction or repulsion between the charged particles? The Rutherford's assumption is like this. He projected alpha particles, its atomic number Z is equal to 2, charge is equal to 2e, because the quantization of the charge is there, Ne. And he took a gold foil, its atomic number is actually 79. There may be a possibility to conduct this experiment at different foils, maybe gold, maybe silver, those which can absorb the particles or those who can reflect the particles, those which can transmit the particles or those which can scatter the particles, alpha particles. So any surface we can take. So Z is equal to 2 is compulsory because it is alpha ray atomic number, mostly it is helium. Q is equal to 2e based on the quantization of the charge. Next, Z is equal to 79 or Z, where Z is equal to atomic number. Electrostatic force equation is 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into Q1 Q2 by R square. Now, this equation was transformed in the view of Rutherford is like this. 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught. What is Q1? We can write 2e, nothing but the helium atom or alpha ray. Q2, target, we can write ZE. In place of Z, we can substitute anything. R square. Where R is the closest approach. This is the calculation of the closest approach and force between the charged particles and the targeted nucleus. Some terms are related to this experiment. Those are impact parameter and angle of scattering. Now we are going to see the definitions of those. Now we will see the terms which are related to the scattering. The important term is impact parameter. What is the meaning of impact parameter? See here, this is the targeted nucleus. Towards that, many alpha rays are coming. Only some are close to the targeted nucleus. Remaining all are scattered at different angles. Let me draw the arrow marks, then you can understand. Initially, they are coming with some velocity towards the nucleus until whenever it is approached near to the nucleus, they are deviated. And in terms of Rutherford, we are saying it as a scattering. So, the perpendicular distance from center of the nucleus to initial velocity vectors of the alpha particles is called impact parameter. The perpendicular distance from the center of the nucleus to the initial velocity vectors of alpha particles. Vectors of alpha particles. It is represented by B. If you see this diagram, some alpha particles are less scattered, some are scattered more. So the scattering angle varies from theta is equal to 0 to pi, 0 to 180 degrees. That must be the scattering. And one more, with respect to the experiments, the evidence we got from the Rutherford's experiment is size of the nucleus is 10 to the power of minus 15 meters to 10 to the power of minus 14 meters. According to the experiments did on the assumption of kinetic theories, the size of the nucleus is 10,000 times or 1 lakh times. 10 to the power of 4 to 10 to the power of 5 times lesser than the size of atom. So atom is bigger than or larger than 10 to the power of 4 to 10 to the power of 5 times the size of the nucleus, and the size of the nucleus is 10 to the power of minus 15 meters to 10 to the power of minus 14 meters. These are the evidences we have got as a conclusion from the Rutherford's experiment. But there is no explanation about the electrostatic force between the revolving electrons to the protons which are placed inside the nucleus. So protons and electrons have the electrostatic force between them, and there may be a chance for the loss of the radiation. This point was not concluded in the Rutherford's experiment, and this point was explained by Mr. Bohr and took the assumption of a neutron with the help of Chadwick. Next we will see the electron orbits. According to Rutherford's model, nucleus presents with protons. Electrons are revolving around the nucleus in their own energy levels. Now, nucleus is not this much bigger, but for the understanding of the different persons, we are keeping the nucleus as like this. So, nucleus it is there. We can write it as nucleus. Electrons are revolving around it. So, if this is the atomic structure model, there are the two forces which are needed to stable the atomic structure. What is that? Already from proton to electron, positive charge to negative charge, there is a electrostatic force, Fe. And at the same time, this electrostatic force should be balanced by some other forces for the stability of the atomic structure. So, what the thinking? Nucleus is giving a sufficient force which is equal to the electrostatic force, then only this atomic structure will be in the stability. And that force which is required to stable the atomic structure and which should be equal to the magnitude of Fe is called as Fc, nothing but centripetal force. This is electrostatic force. So the nucleus is giving the sufficient centripetal force which is required and equal to the electrostatic force. So in this case we can say Fe is equal to Fc. What is the electrostatic force equation? 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into Q1 Q2 by R square. We will do the modification of this Fe. What is centripetal force equation? mv square by R. So K into, we can write 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught as K, Q1 Q2 2E ZE by R square is equal to mv square by R. Now, if the charges are same, means electron and electron, its the charge is same. So we can write if this formula is valid between the different atoms. If it is in the same atom, electron's charge is same. How many electrons are there? Its charge is same. So that's why this equation can be modified like this: 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into E square by R square. And this is balanced by mv square by R. What are the things we can cancel here? R and R square get cancelled. Therefore, E square by 4 pi epsilon naught R is equal to mv square. And what is R from this equation? We can write E square by 4 pi epsilon naught into mv square. This equation is very, very important. This equation gives the relation between radius of the orbit to the velocity of the electron. Radius of the orbit to the velocity of electron. Where R is equal to radius of the orbit, V is equal to velocity of the electron. Now we are going to find out its energy and total energy. Now we are going to find out the total energy of the electron. Total energy of the revolving electron. So, total energy is equal to kinetic energy plus potential energy. What is kinetic energy? The formula is half mv square. We got mv square is equal to E square by 4 pi epsilon naught r. Half mv square is equal to E square by 8 pi epsilon naught r. This is one equation. What about the potential energy? Symbol is U in terms of electricity or atomic structure. It is found that minus E square by 4 pi epsilon naught r. Now we can find out the electrostatic potential in electrostatics. We got 1 by 4 pi epsilon and q square by r like that. So total energy is equal to K plus U E square by 8 pi epsilon naught r minus E square by 4 pi epsilon naught r. So if you took A square by r or E square by pi epsilon naught r as common, we will get 1 by 8 minus 1 by 4 minus 1 by 4. So where 8 is the LCM, so 1 minus 2 minus 1 by 8. So minus E square by 8 pi epsilon naught r is the answer. See, total energy is equal to minus E square by 8 pi epsilon naught r. Kinetic energy is equal to plus E square by 8 pi epsilon naught r. So what we can understand from these expressions, see this one. This is total. Let us write this one as equation 2 or 3. No problem. So we can write the total energy of the revolving electron in any atomic structure is equal to negative gradient of the kinetic energy. Total energy is equal to negative gradient of Ke. This is the conclusion about the total energy of the revolving electron. Now we will see one problem which is related to the radius of the orbits and its velocity. The problem is like this. It is found experimentally that 13.6 electron volts, EV means electron volts, energy is required to separate a hydrogen atom into a proton and an electron. Means hydrogen atom, if you want to split that hydrogen atom into proton and electron, we need this much of energy. Okay. Compute the orbital radius r and the velocity of electron v in a hydrogen atom. Hydrogen is split into two subatomic particles. So energy is a negative gradient. So energy is equal to minus 13.6 eV. eV means 1 electron volt. 1 electron volt is equal to 1.6 into 10 to the power of minus 19 joules. Therefore, we are converting the energy into joules. Minus 13.6 into 1.6 into 10 to the power of minus 19 joules. The answer is minus 2.2 into 10 to the power of minus 18 joules. This is energy. So, if this is the energy, compute the orbital radius small r and the velocity of the electron in a hydrogen atom. So, what is the equation for the total energy? Minus E square by 8 pi epsilon naught r. We should find out r. So, therefore, r is equal to minus E square by 8 pi epsilon naught into energy, total energy. We can write it as TE, total energy. Where A is equal to charge of electron, minus 1.6 into 10 to the power of minus 19 whole square, because it is E square, into 1 by 8 pi epsilon naught. 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught is 9 into 10 power 9. 1 by 8 pi epsilon naught we can write 9 into 10 to the power of 9 by 2. Therefore, 9 into 10 to the power of 9 by 2 into what is the energy? Minus 2.2 into 10 to the power of minus 18 joules. Now, what will be the radius? If you do the calculation, we'll get the answer like this. If you substitute all the values and do the calculation, you will get 5.3 into 10 to the power of minus 11 meters. This is said to be radius. Radius of the orbiting electron from the center of the nucleus. Now, our next job is to find out the velocity of the electron in a hydrogen atom. Now, we are going to find out the velocity. We know that V square is equal to E square by 4 pi epsilon naught mr. So, V is equal to under root E square by 4 pi epsilon naught mr. The equation transforms like this. V is equal to E by under root 4 pi epsilon naught mr. E is charge, m is mass of the electron. E is charge of electron, m is mass of the electron. How much? 9.1 into 10 to the power of minus 31 kg. Radius is equal to 5.3 into 10 to the power of minus 11 meters. Just before this one we have found. After substituting all values, we will get 2.2 into 10 to the power of 6 meters per second. So with this much speed, an electron is revolving in the orbital in hydrogen atom. Now we are going to see the atomic spectra. What is the meaning of atomic spectra? In the introduction of the atomic structure, we studied that many particles or many gaseous atoms, many solid particles are giving some wavelength orders. It is such like this. Radiation is possible with respect to the transition of electrons within the atomic energy levels. So how this radiation is possible, we are going to see now. In general, in light chapter, in optics chapter, we can say in electromagnetic waves chapter, spectrum means order of the colors. White light. If a white light it passes through an obstacle like a glass prism, just behind the glass prism, if you place it a screen like this, white light splits into 7 colors. We know that is a VIBGYOR and we are saying that as a spectrum. So VIBGYOR is nothing but the order of 7 different or 7 constituent colors which are present in the white light. Such like that, this is the spectrum of light. Spectrum of light. But our title is not the spectrum of light, spectrum of atom or atomic spectra. Spectrum means a single order. Spectra means more than single, more than one. So, what is the meaning of spectrum? We have seen that different wavelengths are ordered in a row of increasing or in the order of increasing. Such like that, atoms. Atoms are molecules of the gaseous particles or gaseous molecules or any solid particles are traveling through different electric fields. There may be a possibility for the absorption of the energy. That means those particles which are already charged, when they are passing through the different electric fields, they will absorb the energy from that electric field, or they may lose the energy with respect to the applied field. The loss of the energy or absorption of the energy will be released out of the object in a form of a wavelength or in a wave. We are saying it as a radiation. Once it is absorbed the energy, the wavelength order will be absorbed wavelength, and the spectrum released by these absorbed wavelengths are called absorption spectrum. Absorption spectrum. What is the meaning of absorption spectrum? Any solid particle atoms or gaseous atoms or gaseous molecules passing through electric fields. They will gain the energy or lose the energy. The gain or loss is due to the transition of electrons within the energy levels. Next we are going to see that. The gain or loss released in a form of a radiation, and that radiation will be associated with a color that is nothing but the wave. So the order of these wavelengths, sometimes we will get only one line or sometimes we will get different wavelength lines. So these spectrums are called absorption spectrum because electron absorbed the energy. So this absorbed spectrum is appeared like a bright bands or bright colored bands on the dark background. Bright band on dark background. In place of solid particles or gaseous particles, if we pass a white light through the different electric fields, white lights separates. So it emits the wavelength. So this type of wavelengths are called emitted wavelengths. The spectrum which is formed due to the emitted wavelengths is called emission spectrum. If white light passed through different EF means electric field, there is a possibility for the emission of the wavelengths. So this wavelengths order is called emission spectrum. What is the meaning of emission spectrum? Okay, in absorption spectrum we have seen bright bands on dark background, but emission spectrum exactly reverse. We will see the dark bands on bright background. Means always the bands which are appeared in the emission spectrum are dark in color, completely black, because the total energy is emitted out completely. There will be no energy. Is it right? So that's why exactly ulta. Dark bands on bright background. That's why there are two different types of spectra: emission, absorption. Now we are going to see the energy levels with respect to these spectra. Now we will see the spectral series. Hydrogen is the simplest atom, first of all. Is a simplest atom. What is the meaning of the simplest atom? Okay, its atomic number is 1, most unstable gas. So what I am saying is, in spectral series, if you observe the different wavelengths that are emitted by the hydrogen atom, so we can see some gaps between the spectral orders. After that, some gap, then you can observe the lines like this. After that, some gap again like this. So this is a spectral line, an order of spectral lines. Some gap existed. After the gap, one more set of spectral lines. Next gap, one more set. Because of this gap, we can say that this is one spectral series. This is another spectral series. This is another spectral series. So these are all said to be spectral series. This concept discovered by a scientist called Balmer. He found one empirical formula to find out the wavelengths which are associated due to the excitation or de-excitation of electrons within the energy levels. What is that empirical formula? 1 by lambda is equal to R into 1 by N1 square minus 1 by N2 square. or we can write 1 by n square minus 1 by 1 square, 1 by 2 square, 1 by 3 square. It's like that. What is the use of this empirical formula, and what are those spectral series we can find? We are going to observe now. Now we are going to write those series patterns. First one is Lyman series. The empirical formula for the Lyman series is 1 by lambda is equal to R into 1 by 1 square minus 1 by n square, where n is equal to 2, 3, 4 and so on. What is the meaning of this? Where R is equal to Rydberg constant, its value is 1.097 into 10 to the power of 7 meter inverse. Okay, then what is this n is equal to 234? What is this 1? We can say this 1 as n1, we can say this n as n2. That means the transition of electron, or the jumping, excitation or de-excitation of the electron. This is one, first energy level, second energy level, third energy level. In case of that, destination is the ground state, 1, n1. But what is the possible first transition? 2 to 1, next 3 to 1, next 4 to 1, we can write it as 4, and continuous. Like that, the formula relates to 1 by lambda, means if electron jumps are excited or de-excited from 2 to 1, if you substitute these 2 and 1 values here and multiplied with the Rydberg constant, we will get one wavelength. And next one is Balmer series, 1 by 2 square minus 1 by n square. There n is equal to 3, 4, 5 continuously. Passion, Brackett, Fund, Humphrey, like that. That means, what is the physical significance of this spectral series? Some atoms always radiates the radiations in different colors. Why they are expelling the colors out of them? Because of the electrons transitions within their energy levels. This is the concept behind this. So what we can understand is, this is the Lyman series formula. The empirical formula of the Lyman series is 1 by lambda is equal to R into 1 by 1 square minus 1 by n square. The first transition is 2 to 1. Second transition is 3 to 1. Next 4 to 1 and continuous. What we can understand in this case is, destination is always to the ground state. That is very, very important. Which is the next energy level above the ground state? 2. So the first transition 2 to 1 and the remaining continuous. Here destination is ground state. Now we will see the Balmer series. Here the empirical formula of the Balmer series is 1 by lambda is equal to R into 1 by two square minus 1 by n square. So what we can understand from this formula, in place of n we can write 3, 4, 5. So the destination is 2. First transition is 3 to 2. Second transition is 4 to 2. Third 5 to 2 and continuous from infinity to 2. We can write it as to infinity. So again R is equal to Rydberg constant. The transitions are like this. This is first, second, third, fourth, fifth. First transition is 3 to 2. second is 422, third is 522, and continuous. Whenever an electron de-excited from 3 to 2, if we substitute these values here, we will get one particular wavelength. So we can find out if a wavelength or color is released by any object or a particle, so the electron is transitioned from one energy level to the another energy level. Next one is Paschen. What is the empirical formula for the Paschen? 1 by lambda is equal to R into 1 by 3 square minus 1 by n square. So where n is equal to 4, 5, 6 up to infinity. So the transition will be like this. This is first, second, third, 4, 5, 6, 7. First transition is from 4 to 3. Second from 5 to 3. Third from 6 to 3. Fourth from 7 to 3 and infinity. So if you substitute this 4, 3 values, 5, 3, 6, 3 like that, we will get one particular wavelength. As usually, R is Rydberg constant. Next, bracket series. So what is the transition and the semi-empirical formula of the bracket series? 1 by lambda is equal to R into. In Lyman, it is 2 to 1. In Balmer, it is 3 to 2. In Paschen, it is 4 to 3. So in bracket, it is 5 to 4. That's why we can write 1 by 4 square minus 1 by n square, where n is equal to 5, 6, 7 up to so on infinity. Where R is as usual Rydberg constant. So what we can understand, how the transitions takes place, see here. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So electron first transition possible is in bracket series is 5 to 4. So 5 to 4. Next transition 6 to 4. Next transition 7 to 4. Continuously from infinity. So we can write first is 5 to 4. Next is 6 to 4. Next is 7 to 4. So here the destination is fourth energy level or fourth state. First transition 5 to 4 and it will be continuous. Means if you substitute this in place of n 5, 6, 7 and continuously, you will get different wavelengths which are emitted in the excitation or de-excitation of the electrons. Next one is Pfund series. Or we can write it as a P-Pfund series. The empirical formula of this P-Pfund series is 1 by lambda is equal to R into 1 by 5 square minus 1 by n square, where n is equal to 6, 7, 8 up to so on infinity. So the first transition is 6 to 5, second transition is 7 to 5, next transition is 8 to 5, continuously like that. As usual, here R is equal to Rydberg constant. Now, what we should understand, what is the transition? The picture of the visualization of the transition is like this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. First transition is 6 to 5. Next 7 to 5. Next 8 to 5. Ultimately from infinity to 5. If you substitute the n values 6, 7, 8 varies like this, we will get the different wavelengths and we can find out which color will be emitted. So these are the spectral series: Lyman, Balmer, Paschen, Brackett, Pfund. So next what we should understand in this concept is that there are some names for the lines. If it is a red color is emitted in any of the transition, there is a special name. Or violet is emitted, there is a special name. Or green blue colored layer is emitted, there is a special name. If the wavelengths are decreasing in the spectral series, there will be appear as a band and with less intensity. If the wavelengths are high or wavelengths are maximum or great or maximum values or wavelengths are more, suppose in the visible range red is the more wavelength, red color has the more wavelength. As the wavelength is decreasing in the order in a spectral series, we can observe the spectral series as a band structure, not the discrete structure. Discrete means clearly visible and they are separated by some distance. So we will see the band structure. So now we are going to find out the H alpha, H beta, H gamma lines. Now we are going to see the H alpha, H beta and H gamma lines. H alpha line. What is the meaning of H alpha line? As we discussed in the different spectral series, just an example of Balmer series we are taking. The empirical formula of the Balmer series is 1 by lambda is equal to R into 1 by 2 square minus 1 by n square, where n is equal to 3, 4, 5 up to infinity. I am substituting 3 in place of n. Therefore 1 by lambda is equal to Rydberg constant 1.097 into 10 to the power of 7 meter inverse into 1 by 2 square minus 1 by 3 square meter inverse. So what we can understand is 1.097 into 10 to the power of 7, not minus 7, plus 7 only, 1 by 4 minus 1 by 9. So we can write 1.097 into 10 to the power of 7. LCM is 36 and we will get 9 minus 4, that is 5 by 36. Meter inverse, meter inverse. This is 1 by lambda. If we do the calculation where lambda is equal to 36 by 5 into some 1.097 into 10 to the power of 7 meter inverse, then we will get, if you do the calculation, lambda we will get 656 nanometers approximately. What is this 656 nanometers? Red color. So, if an electron de-excites from, or transition took place from third to second, 3 to 2, it emits the wavelength of red color of order of 656 nanometers. So this is the largest wavelength in the visible region. Largest wavelength in the visible region. This largest wavelength in the visible region, which is approximately equal to 656 nanometers, is called H alpha line in Balmer series. So then we can conclude that wavelength of H alpha line is approximately 656 nanometers. Then if you substituted n is equal to 4, you will get a blue green wavelength, approximately in the order of 486 nanometers. If it is infinity, we will get under the violet some 346 nanometers. Therefore, now next we are going to see the H beta line. Now in the same Balmer series, we are going to find out the H beta line. So what is H beta line? Empirical formula is 1 by lambda into is equal to R into 1 by 2 square minus 1 by n square, where n is equal to 3, 4, 5. If n is equal to 3, we got H alpha line of red color wavelength. If n is equal to 4, 1.0967 into 10 to the power of 7 into 1 by 4 minus 1 by 4 square is equal to 1 by lambda. The units are meter inverse. So 1.0967 into 10 to the power of 7 into 1 by 4 minus 1 by 16 meter inverse. For 1.0967 into 10 to the power of 7 into, where 16 is the LCM, 4 minus 1, 3 by 16 meter inverse. If you do the calculation, you will get 486.1 nanometers of lambda. So 486.1 nanometers is blue-green interface, blue-green wavelength. This is the second line in the Balmer series. 3 to 2 is the first transition, second transition is 4 to 2, this is the second line. So first transition gives the red wavelength, red colors wavelength, second transition gives the interface or of blue-green colors. So 5 to 2 is H gamma. So H beta line's wavelength is blue-green interface. Means it is almost like a line or a band which is a combination of two merged wavelengths like this, blue and green. So this is H beta. H gamma's wavelength is 436.1 nanometers. It is equal to violet color. H alpha line red, H beta